What about when Grail touches Tessian?
I think
Let's
it probably
not
has the
test
same
it.
effect.
Let's.
I know. I
not
kind of
test
like
it.
impulsively like recoil. I'm like, I think it's any kind of touch, regardless of intent.
Is it as soon as it happens?
It's as soon as we break contact.
Okay. Well, so you
So
either
it could be
need
touching
to,
for all eternity.
Yeah, you
don't
can hug
touch
forever.
or never stop touching.
I think Thea might have a problem with that, but yes.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing we could try is removing the necklace from me. But I wouldn't want to do that unless you're all here. There's no telling where or when I'll go.
It was pretty slow before, so should be able to react in time. I don't know. What do you guys think? You can't wear it forever.
Tessie kind of shrugs, like, well, I don't know, I could probably, if it, like, if it was this or death, I could make it work, but,
It's a big decision. Do you want to sleep on it tonight, Tessian, and see how you feel in the morning?
Rest up and get your HP back.
Jesus.
All 33 hit points of it.
Shots.
Yeah.
If these two ever get angry at each other, this is going to be an epic slap fight.
Because he keeps shocking her, and she's like, "Oh yeah, well, how much HP do you have?"
I know.
Tessian's like, maybe, a night's rest, and, who knows what dreams might find either one of us.
Yeah, that's what our group needs, is a third person who gets visions in the nighttime. We'll solve all of the continent's mysteries by in a fortnight.
It'd be 4 people now. 4 people that do that.
I
And
lost
Tessie,
track.
The whole party would get them.
Yeah, Tessie just pats Isaac on the shoulder. He's like, in due time, Isaac. I'm sure you'll find some sort of nonsense.
Tessian, when you remove your hand from Isaac's shoulder after you pat him,
Oh, please.
No,
nothing
it's
happens.
nothing.
God, this superpower you've given me. You get necrotic damage. You get necrotic
static shock.
If you've ever seen Ernest Goes to Jail, that's an old
Yes!
movie. But he just gets like super magnetized because they try to kill him. He just starts flying around and like zapping people. It's stupid. It's stupid, but a great movie. You should see it.
So do we all go to bed?
Was it like 4 in the afternoon or something?
I thought it was
No.
nighttime. Somebody said it was nighttime, so I...
It was-
is it? Okay.
It was like 6 or 7 in the evening when this started, so maybe like an hour has passed over the course of it.
Okay.
While you guys were upstairs and then outside, Millicent was working on dinner because she didn't know what else to do, and she thought it would be helpful. Maybe a meal would help everybody puzzle things out better.
I take a seat on the opposite side of where Grail is sitting. We can't have our foot touching. That's not.
No footsies here.
No,
Mm-mm.
at least not between you two.
Yeah.
No.
Karash and Isaac, that one's fair game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, they whip that up and
Oh.
they kind of ask
Isaac, not you.
for just a general sense of what happened, and you guys can sort of give them the details. They don't really understand any of it any more than you guys do, but they try and sort of, ask without being too forceful about it, just because they're concerned. And if that's all you guys would like to do, you guys can head up to bed for the evening.
How are you feeling, Lena? We have now one member of the Fellowship threatening to shimmer out of existence. 2 members can't touch each other.
I had
It was
no
not a
idea.
good day. We took a scratch, I would say, on,
Yes.
on this day overall.
I was not prepared for any of this. I don't know if I don't know if Tessian should take off the necklace. I think that's too risky. And I just rubbed the side of my head, just like I don't even know what to do.
Well, think on it before you go to bed. I find sometimes when I want to come to a solution, I think about the problem really hard before bed, and sometimes my dreams will help me arrive at the answer. You have visions in your sleep, so I'm hoping this will be magnified.
That's not a bad idea, actually. Thank
Well,
you.
food for thought.
Yes.
And I go to bed.
Also, what happened to the box? Did we just leave it outside? Because if I'll probably hold on to it. The box is okay, right? Like if I hold the box, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
Seems-
probably.
Seems fine.
Okay, I
How
will.
big was the? Is it like a small box?
It's like a small chest.
I can't think it was like a chest.
No, it's like a small chest, maybe like
Yeah.
6 inches
Yeah,
long,
okay.
4 or
Okay.
5 inches tall. Not
Yeah.
not super big, but it is like it is actually a chest, but a small one,
Like a little curio chest or something.
essentially, big enough for the necklace and not much more. And the
Yeah.
the velvety interior that held the necklace. That's about it.
I will probably hold on to it for the time being. But yeah, not a fan.
There's science I want to do, but it's not worth it to keep hurting Grail.
Testian,
Gonna
more
say-
like
No more
Testian,
science.
am I right?
I'm gonna say if you put it in the bag of holding, is the planar distance enough to stop it from zapping her? Because it's doesn't. We don't know. Who knows? Mysteries for another time.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point you'll touch me, and we'll find out.
Yeah. Cure
Keep
wounds,
testing
huh?
the patience around here. We'll see how quickly it is that thing gets ripped off your neck.
Yeah, Alfred, that's enough. Stop touching me. Give me that. And then he just fades away. You're like, oh,
Oh no.
well,
Worth it.
at least he'll stop touching me now.
Yeah.
Jerk. All right, anybody do anything before bed? Last crack-a-lack.
Probably just struggling to go to sleep, considering he's concerned. Like, what if I roll over and like the necklace comes off? Like, do I just fade away in the middle of the night?
I don't feel
like,
so
Oh,
good,
we-
Mr. Stark.
We
Oh
still have
no.
people to watch outside, don't we?
I mean, didn't we kill everybody? Oh, no, there's still people, huh?
We
Well, I mean,
have
I-
them tied up, ready to take them with us
I was
to
gonna say.
imprison them.
No,
You
we never
killed
went
all but one
anywhere.
of them outside, and one of
And-
them ran off. There's still some in the barn.
And we've been feeding them, so they're good.
You fed them once. And maybe if you wanted to go out there again in the evening, that's certainly easy enough to do. All right.
They'll get food tomorrow in prison.
Prison food.
We'll make sure they're all tied up nice and secure, and then I'll suggest taking watches on them again.
I'll probably do that at some point in the night. I had a question, but I don't know if this matters. It's like a player question. So I know we were talking about Still Valley as one of the places that I saw in a vision, but when Tessian was talking about it in his vision, did he actually say it was Still Valley? And do I actually know it's Still Valley? Okay. That's fine. Just
Even if it is, there was not enough to connect the dots there.
okay, that's fine.
And who knows? Perhaps. Perhaps not. Mysteries are all the fun
Perhaps
until you solve them,
not.
and then you're like, oh, it's over.
Yes.
Now what do I do? Let's poke Grail some more.
Yes. Yes, please.
Karash, when you go into the barn, the prisoners are all still tightly bound with several loops of rope as you left them, still blindfolded, still gagged. Some of them appear to be sleeping.
Is Limpy, my new friend, is he looking okay?
He is looking alive. He's not like in danger of dying. He looks.
Or losing his foot anytime soon?
It doesn't look great. It was nearly taken off cleanly, and then Lena did some work to patch it back together, but it's still swollen up and a pretty gnarly darker red color.
I'll take a look at it, see if I can't make it not die or whatever.
With in addition to the work that Lena did and Isaac stabilized him at one point, if you were to lay on hands him, it would probably still function mostly like it did before today.
Well, I have bad news for him. I have 2 HP worth of lay on hands left.
But that's 2 more than you thought you did.
Fair enough.
See,
I'll give
people
him
want to get
2
rid of pennies,
HP.
but look, pennies can help.
Pennies from heaven. I'll give him 2 pennies then. I'll get him my 2 cents in.
You can see that as best as he can within the bindings, he's kind of like, he seems sort of feverish as you kind of observe everybody in the barn and whatnot, because he seems to be in not great shape. That does seem to subside somewhat, and the swelling does reduce. It still doesn't look phenomenal, but it does look like you've at least helped.
We've been on this farm for so long. This is like Walking Dead season 2.
Well, I was telling them, I think before you came out here, before we started, I was like, man, my notes on this section are a hell of a lot longer than I thought they were going to be.
Everything keeps happening out here.
Yeah.
I am so ready to move on from this farm too, but stuff just keeps happening.
Yep.
Oh, the head of the Gorgon is still somewhere on the farm now too, isn't it? We dragged that back in the cart.
Sure.
Yes. That sounds right. Didn't you show it to somebody else? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
It's so long ago.
I'll start gouging that up while I'm watching my my new wards.
Okay. So, is that it for the night? The evening.
Yes.
Karash, you taking first watch, Lena second, vice versa?
Yeah, I can do second or whichever. Whatever works.
Cool.
Okay. So, everybody has a roll to make.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Karash, I need a perception check.
Not me.
Lena, I need a perception check for your watch.
Okay.
And a nature check,
Oh God. Okay.
assuming you're trying to meditate.
Yes, I will try to do that.
Grail, I need a perception check with disadvantage. But passive perception, I don't give a shit. Tessian, I need an intelligence saving throw.
Oh no. You
And
lose
Isaac.
another 10 HP.
Isaac, I need a wisdom saving throw.
Um.
So everybody keep rolling. I'll let them work in roll 20. We'll start going down one by one here once they're done. I'll just talk to you viewers while they work.
We're gonna wake up in the morning. Tessian's gonna be like 75 years old.
It's been 84 years.
I got a big 3. Big 3 on my perception check.
Big 3, huh?
I got 24 on my perception and 11 nature.
Okay. Let's address those first so I don't lose track of everything. Karash, it's at a certain point you almost get so engrossed in defiling this Gorgon head that you've sort of lost track of watch to some extent, but for the most part, your 4 hours pass without incident. There's occasionally some low moaning and grumbling from the captives, some of it muffled because of the gags. They shift uncomfortably. They seem to be having a hard time sleeping in their arrangement, and that's about all that you hear besides the occasional stray sheep bleating from outside. Seems fine overall, and as you kind of look out periodically, you don't see anything except a vast expanse of field and the stars overhead. Lena, you are getting the impression from repeated attempts at this that although you've cleared your focus somewhat, you're going to have to be closer to get a much better sense of where this next location is. At this point, you're starting to feel like it's not necessarily your unfamiliarity with how to sense this out as you've been doing this meditation on multiple nights now, but the fact that regardless of how good you might be at it, you may just be too far off to really get any meaningful approach to it.
Okay.
Which is still, more info than you had, but it's at this point it's a ways northwest.
Yeah.
As far as your watch, maybe because you're worried about testing or just everything that's happened the last few days, but you seem kind of hyper-focused, and as you kind of keep touring the area, walking about, keeping an eye on things, you're confident this has been a quiet night into the early morning. As the sun starts to rise over the plains and over the farm, you can say with damn near absolute confidence that there was nobody approaching. Whatever happened earlier in the evening last night, that seems to have been the end of it, at least for now.
Hell yeah.
Good.
Okay, what do we got from the other three?
17.
He wanted to take charge, so he's first. To see. So Isaac,
Yes.
you are having a hard time sleeping,
God damn it.
and you haven't done the memory thing for a bit, and it's always jarring, as you can tell just from what happened when you first took the memory from everything else. And as you're kind of tossing and turning, one of the things that comes to you, whether it's a dream or a memory or something that's made up entirely, you're not completely sure. Having seen Connor in the vision of the female elf's last memory, you find yourself back in your home in Timberbrook, and you see a younger but still older than you, Connor, and this almost like you're stuck in a small nightmare of sorts. He's dragging Cora off by the arm, and you try to stop him, but he's so much bigger than you, especially at this age gap. You can tell from Cora that you must be like 13 or so, and with Connor's advantage in age and size, he's able to kind of push you off and pull her. She's kind of, she's screaming about not wanting to go, and he says your father insists, and again, you don't really know if this is a memory, a dream, a nightmare, none of the above, but something about that vision triggers this and kind of hampers your sleep for the night. Not to the point where there's any mechanical downside to it. You get your health back and all that jazz. But it makes for a unsettling night at
And
the
Cora
least.
is my younger sister.
Correct.
Yeah. Poor thing.
She is or was the nice one. Who's next?
I can go. I got a 15 with disadvantage.
Ooh. Grail, you also are having trouble sleeping because I don't know if I need to explain it.
No.
Seems relatively obvious. There is a point at which you are sort of half asleep, but you jerk awake, and as you try to get your bearings in the dark, you know this room. You've been home for a couple days now, so it's not like it's unfamiliar, but it is still sort of unsettling being back, and you kind of bolt up and catch your breath, look around. As you look over at the door into your room, you see what appears to be a familiar necklace floating towards you.
That's nice.
Oh, God.
Ghost necklace.
What?
Oh, my God. This is awful.
Okay.
This is a dream or this is happening?
I'm gonna scream because this is terrifying. I'm gonna react very much not well. I'm gonna like jolt up in bed and kind of like quickly like back up against the headboard and just kind of like try and get away from it, I guess. I'm gonna yell. Like, help!
Help! Anyone!
Oh, my God.
Guys,
Do we hear this?
Yeah, I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
She's screaming. Is she actually screaming?
Like,
as you kind of scurry back against the headboard and backpedal away from the necklace, continue to sort of float in your direction.
I hate it.
And as you let out this scream, you jolt out of bed, look around the room, catch your breath. Doesn't seem to be a necklace.
Oh, good.
God, you go back to bed and the necklace is like right.
No one hears any scream.
oh, my God. That's horrifying.
Ooh, that's
Well,
weird.
yeah. I was having a great night.
That's different than my visions for sure.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that that's good.
No, I don't think it is. All right, well, I'm awake for the rest of my life. That's fun.
I'll
This
never
is me
sleep
now.
again. It's fine. You only start taking points of exhaustion after the first 24 hours.
Cool. I am wide awake. I'm gonna just at this point. I don't want to be alone. I'm gonna get up and whoever's on watch, I'm gonna go down to the barn. Done.
This
I
is
would point out at this point, I'm not leaving the barn. I'm sleeping in the barn.
okay.
Oh,
And this is at the point at which you've gotten enough sleep to at least get back your stuff. It's probably like 4 a.m, so
Okay.
maybe just the faintest hint of light over the mountains to the east in the sky, but obviously you can't even see the sun or anything approaching that yet. And you can, as you head outside, you see Lena making her rounds very astutely. She is like, walking around, looking at stuff, making sure everything's okay. Like, she seems to be on her A game.
Aw. I don't really want to disturb her, but also I don't want to be alone, so I'm being kind of selfish in this. I kind of, not so quietly, like, go. So are the sheep are in the barn, yeah, or are they out in pasture?
Sheep are out in pasture.
Okay,
They stay out all the time.
I'm gonna go through kind of like Lena's like frame of sight and just kind of like walk out to the pasture, and if she wants to come talk to me, she can, or she can keep going on her
I'm gonna
on her route.
see you, and I'm gonna be like, "What? Why is she out here this early?" So, I'll take one last look at the barn, just make sure everything's okay over there, and then I'm gonna walk out and check on Grail. And so when I approach, I will just ask, "Is everything okay? You couldn't sleep?"
I kind of turn to her and I shake my head and I say, I tried. I did for a little bit. It was tough going, but there's a lot going on, as you know, and I had it wasn't a vision. It wasn't like what I've been having necessarily. It spooked me, and I think there was no way I was going to get back to bed. I just think I need to stay awake for now.
And I nod and, oh God, what am I going to say? Whenever I had nightmares as a child, I would always tell my older brother about them. And he'd always ask me over and over whatever the nightmare was about, and eventually he would get it out of me. And if you want to talk about it, you can. I'd be happy to listen. I know from experience it can help sometimes.
Actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything. You know how dreams, you have them and in the moment they're horrifying, but then you try to explain them and they weren't really. It's more like when you're in the moment they feel that way. Mm-hmm. This is kind of similar. I mean, I felt like I was in my room. Everything seemed like I was awake, and my necklace was floating towards me just by itself. And I had the reaction of fear immediately, and I shouted out, for help. And then I kind of came to. I actually woke up from the dream or whatever it was, and it was, of course, gone. I'm so worried about Tessian now and what my necklaces might mean for us, for Aramia. I'm all wrapped up in it, and I don't necessarily think that the dream I had was in any way going to happen. It didn't feel the same as my visions, but I can't stop thinking about it. It's kind of consuming me right now, and I'm afraid for the worst.
I nod, and I'm just trying to process everything, and oh God, I don't know what to say. Was it the cursed necklace that was floating? Or was it?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask Chris. I don't know if we can really tell. Like, in my dream, did it feel like it was the curse? Did it have the necrotic energy, or did I even have that kind of? Was it something I could even like really feel in the dream?
I will say the visceral reaction you felt as though it were the defiled one.
Okay.
But by the time you kind of like jerked awake from what happened there, it wasn't close enough to tell whether it was one that had the crack on it or not.
Yeah. And I'll explain that because, yeah, my initial reaction was one of fear and something that very much didn't feel like the necklace I've had my entire life, basically. Yeah.
Oh, God. So in response, I will say that's concerning. I don't like the sound of that at all. I've been holding on to that necklace for the time being. I think it might be best to put it into the bag of holding and not have it quite so in the open. I don't know if that will help, but it might.
I agree, and I think of the five of us, I think you're the one who's best situated to have it.
I nod and say, we'll figure this out. No matter what it is, we'll get through this.
I kind of offer like a wry smile, and I say, I know what Isaac and Tessian have been talking about, and it seems far-fetched and kind of crazy, to be honest, but what do you think is going on?
And I sigh and I say, I wish I had a good answer. I don't know. All this talk of time travel and different worlds, it's beyond anything I could have anticipated. I don't know if they're wrong, though. How else would we explain any of this?
It's true. I kind of smile, and I'm like, I'm actually glad to hear you say that, because I thought I was the only one out of my depth here. And then I pause and I say, are there any stories like this among the elves?
Are there any stories like this in the Sownwood, Chris? Would I know any of these?
Make a history check.
Okie dokie. 19.
The limited understanding that you have of the Conatus from stories that you heard before this process and then the time you've spent on the journey so far, limited though it may be, has taught you that there is sort of a timeless nature to the forest to begin with. A lot of that is just the nature of the Sownwood itself, because they keep themselves so internalized that things don't change rapidly. A city like Lycidian changed dramatically over time because of the new developments and different people coming from different areas, and this is all the same people. And so between that and the fact that it's a city made up of almost entirely of elves, there's always that sort of like timeless feel to it. Even so, there were times where, especially from your grandmother, you would at least hear stories about things that didn't quite seem right. She, in particular, had some travels where she would tell stories about just this unfamiliar feeling, but not really ever able to place it. But that's about the extent of it.
Okay. I'll basically just kind of explain that the forest hasn't really changed a lot, and it's been very much the same for as long as I remember, but that I heard stories from my grandmother about how there were aspects, like things that just seemed off a little bit. And then maybe that has something to do with what we're experiencing now. Maybe what my grandmother has seen is maybe it's just escalating more and more.
I kind of nod. And I say, I just feel like there's so much more to this world that I ever could have imagined. And it's hard to reconcile, really. But it's kind of comforting in a strange way, too. I just... There's a lot that I don't understand, and I'm glad that I'm opening my eyes to these things, and I think that's probably for the best.
Gosh, I will, let's see. I will agree. And I don't know what to say. Kind of that we're in the same boat of that we're learning that the world is very much different from what we anticipated. And that hopefully we'll figure this out and get through it. together. And I will offer a hug just because I know things are crazy. And don't you roll your eyes, you. I saw that.
No, and I'm going to actually have a moment of hesitation and be like, are you going to shock me too? Is there anyone I can touch anymore?
Yeah.
I'll never shock you, baby.
It's a different jolt.
And yeah, exactly. And I'm guessing that there won't be any kind of like issue with that, but I will definitely accept that because I think it was a weird experience feeling like I couldn't like be open and like be careful of be super self-aware, I guess, in relation to Tessie, and it was just kind of an odd feeling. So yeah, I would definitely accept a hug.
I've got that filter of love that I could always put to use if you guys need it.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
as Lena ends the embrace, nothing happens.
Spice it
Thank
up.
God.